Right, okay. So Gill Haigh, who's the Chief Exec of Cumbria Tourism. Gill, welcome to the meeting. I know you've been with us. You came about a year ago, I think it was, when we were right in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, I
And
did. Yeah.
that's right. And we were just all, grappling with the situation and where to go and what to do and what to think as well. And it was a really interesting conversation. I remember it. But lovely to have you back again, and lovely to know that I know your sector is very engaged with what we are trying to do with the network and what everybody on this call is trying to do with their practice as well. So I'm going to hand you over to the safe hands of Kate, who's going to have a conversation with you, and then we'll pick up with questions after that. So Kate, over to you.
Yeah, so first of all, I just wanted to, just before we come to Gill, I just wanted to say that this time last week we were in the midst, or just starting on our marathon session about how the culture sector can help to drive low carbon transition. And we, as a network, came up with 6 things that we are going to do as a result. And I'm just going to whip through those and segue very stylishly into the conversation with Gill. So the 6 things that we decided that we're going to do as a network, and there will be many more for individuals and organisations as well. Well, first of all, to better understand our own footprint, carbon footprint as a network, and to set ourselves targets to reduce that, because it's even as a network, it's possible. To use our website better as a sort of central resource hub, to get involved with the Zero Carbon Cumbria partnership, to make it possible to have conversations, to explore carbon literacy training for network members, and importantly, to keep revisiting the climate we had in mind to do. And with a view to revisit...
Kate, we just missed the last 10 seconds then. Can you just say that bit again?
Oh, apparently I'm unstable, apparently, sorry. The last one is to revisit the climate agenda and the need to drive low carbon transition on a regular basis in these calls. So with that in mind, the first thing I would like to ask Gill is, what is Cumbria Tourism doing to drive low carbon transition?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. I think from our perspective, there's 2 things going on here. We've talked about a sustainable tourism economy in Cumbria for many, many years, and CT was very much at the forefront, was a national park in trying to encourage behaviour change, particularly around travel and the way that people travel. So a lot of you will remember things like the See More campaign, which is about encouraging people to jump onto public transport in order to see more, if you like. And actually, a lot of our businesses, I'm proud to say, are quite ahead of the curve. So you'll see some really fantastic case studies. A lot of you will have heard about businesses like the Quiet Site up in Ullswater, who had zero waste shops and been doing all sorts of things for many years, actually, because this agenda is so important. And it is important, isn't it? Because look at our landscape and look at the reasons why people choose to come and visit us in the first place. However, having said all of that, we, like the network, recognise that this agenda should have been and is now top of the news, if you will, and top of our to-do list. So we had our board away day a couple of weeks ago, and we also revisited this topic to look at what we, Cumbria Tourism, can be doing. And for us, it's carbon zero is part of a more holistic approach to maximising the positive effects of what the visitor economy can do, but whilst also minimising the negative. And we have got a real strong opportunity, because of the strength of our membership and because of the strength of our voice, to influence our tourism businesses and members, to support them in some of that change, to network them and engage them and take those examples of best practice, but also to influence their product, and also to encourage them to be part of creating itineraries and opportunities for sort of net zero visits, and also for schemes such as giving back. We've also got a really strong lobbying voice. We've got the ear, I hope, of local and national politicians. So it's recognising, you know, what is the infrastructure need that's required, what is the support that our members and that businesses require in order to make some of the shifts that are needed. And then, of course, we've got the engagement with the visitor. So it's also about how do we work with the visitor to sort of do that behaviour nudge, and to encourage them to be more conscious of the footprint that they leave, and to share with them the options and opportunities there are for them to come and really reduce their carbon footprint while they're here, and ideally to have carbon neutral holidays here in the county. So a lot of that, when we look at it, we're already doing bits and pieces of. So you'll see a lot of work that we do around encouraging people to travel sustainably. And we are also very engaged with CAFs as well. We're providing business support sessions. We bid with the National Park and the Lake District Foundation for this ESIF funding that some of you might be aware of. So there's up to £20,000 available for businesses to apply for, and it's open just at the moment, to help them to decarbonise their businesses. So it's such an important agenda. And, you know, coming back to visitors and why people come here to visit, they come here because, as we talk about, they come because of the landscape, they come because of our culture and heritage offer, our food and drink offer, and just basically to reconnect with themselves, with their families, with nature. So we're the perfect place, really, I think, to encourage carbon neutral experiences. And what I would like to do is see us being a national leader in that field, and our destination being a national leader in that field, perhaps even international.
Okay, so there's lots there, isn't there? And the ESIF program that you were just mentioning, I wonder if you could put details in chat afterwards.
Of course I will, yeah.
Useful. And I suspect when it comes to questions at the end of our little chat here that other people will want to pick up on some of those things, and I'll let people do that. And move on just to think about kind of recovery from the pandemic. And many people here, whether you're functioning as, you know, an artist on your own or an organisation, are still picking themselves up and trying to sort of get back on their feet. And I just wondered, you know, how Cumbria Tourism can help to promote people's work better in, you know, at present in the current climate.
So content, events, opportunities for people to experience different things whilst they're here is king, really, in our job in promoting the county. We are ambitious to create an all year round visitor economy, because that helps in terms of creating full-time permanent jobs, which helps with the recruitment challenge that perhaps we'll talk about a little bit later on. It helps to motivate and inspire people to visit at different times of the year, different parts of the county, to stay overnight. And that's really important, because that's really where the value to the economy comes from. So we're always searching for content, and that content we share with our members and our businesses, with our visitors, but also with the media as well, because we want the media and the influencers to take an interest. So we've got a free events listing that you don't have to be a Cumbria Tourism member to add to that. And then what we do is we share that events listing with our members, but also with our visitors as well. So if you aren't already aware of that, I can certainly share details about how to hook into that events listing.
Yes, please, that would be great. Okay. Anything else you want to say in terms of how you can help promote?
Yeah, so I mean, that's our job, basically. So if we've got the content, then we have multitude of channels, and really channels that have really high engagement. So we've got all the usual social media platforms. And then we have a huge database. So we have newsletters that go out to businesses, but we have a big program of trying to attract the media and influencers to the county. We also produce a whole range of guides. So we have the annual holiday guide, which again has a big feature on arts, culture and heritage, and then a whole range of other guides as well. So we're a really good, if you like, we're a really good vehicle for helping to shout and share about the things that are going on. And as I said earlier on, you know, the key reasons why people, motivations for people to visit are very much, obviously landscape runs through all of that, but culture, arts, heritage come out every time we survey as one of the top reasons for people choosing to visit this county. So there's a lot of vehicles out there. I will say that, and I have to say this, you know, we're a membership organisation because we're not a publicly funded organisation. So the stronger our membership, the more that we can amplify and do. But I think we're doing a pretty good job.
Okay. How about shouting and sharing about the whole county, not just the Central Lakes? I know that's something that's really important to you, but how can we help you with that as the culture sector?
Yeah, it is massively important. We are Cumbria Tourism, not the Lake District Tourism. What gets confusing, I think, at times is that, and you guys will recognise this, that, you know, the brand of the Lake District is an internationally known brand. And when you hear on, you know, the radio, people saying, oh, I'm off to the lakes for the weekend or whatever it is, they don't talk about Cumbria. And having worked at the University of Cumbria, I know how hard it was to go out and talk to students across the country about, well, where's Cumbria? But if you say the Lake District, they get it. So we've got a policy, and have had for many years, of attract and disperse. And I was jumping into this, wasn't I, just before this session started, about how important it is to ensure that the whole of the county gets the benefit of the visitor economy. It's a £3.1 billion economy in a normal year, and supports about 65,000 jobs. And about half of that value and volume is in the Lake District, within the Lake District National Park, but the other half is outside of it. And the last 18 months actually have given us the opportunity, because of the staycation boom, to work in partnership with the County Council, the District Councils, the LEP and other Lake District National Park, to really work in a coordinated way to push people, to inspire people, to help them to identify different experiences. The whole issue around people wanting space was helpful in that debate and discussion, and we'll have to wait and see till we get our data back, which is probably spring next year, what the accurate picture is, if you like. But we know that anecdotally, businesses throughout the county are telling us that they have been busier, and that's got to be good news. And in terms of what you can do, again, it's content. It's providing me with reasons that I can share that will motivate people to come and explore, and to stay over, and to and to really enjoy and discover.
Yeah, and I possibly from our own perspective as a network, I think there's something to do with it, with county-wide projects that take people right across the county, and that's, we're giving thought to that.
Yeah, I think that, again, I think that's a really good point, actually, that we mustn't be parochial about our own little part of the county, because actually the visitor, I mean, you know this, I hate sort of saying things, it's like teach grandma to suck eggs, but for the visitor, when we go somewhere, we don't think about, are we going to go to St Austell, or are we going to go to Scarborough? We think, actually, we're going to go over to the coast on Yorkshire, we're going to go down to Cornwall. And what we do is, when we're there, really depends on what's hooked us, what's inspired us, and making a number of journeys during that stay hopefully in a carbon neutral way, you know, it is down to what we give people to motivate them, and that's essentially Cumbria Tourism's job.
And I'm sure we have a role to play as well in bringing people together. Just moving on to the situation around recruitment, which I know is really acute for many organisations across the county, and possibly in this case, especially in the Central Lakes. How is Cumbria Tourism helping organisations to continue functioning and solve the issue?
Yeah, and thank you. And I'd be really interested to hear from yourselves as well, how it's affecting your sector. I mean, you know, it's acute, and we were in a really frustrating situation in the summer where, having come out of lockdowns and restrictions and seen half of the value of the visitor economy lost last year, the first half of this year lost, businesses were then coming back together, they were reopening. And if we had the challenge of the pandemic, of course, we had the challenge of making sure that our services and facilities were COVID safe, and that we were rebuilding the confidence of our visitors. And then we were hit by this incredible recruitment challenge, which has forced many businesses to really have to restrict their offering. So whether that's been less rooms opening, whether that's been only being able to serve resident guests, whether that's been having to have pre-booked onlys, no walk-ins, whether that's been about having to close businesses a number of days a week in order to give staff a rest. I've just found it really sad, actually. Now, what have we been able to do about it? The problem that we've had wasn't a surprise. We knew that that was going to happen post-Brexit, because we have had a significant reliance on European workers. The scale of the problem was a surprise, and partly that's been because people who've been furloughed have had time to rethink and reevaluate what's important to them, and possibly, I think as well, perhaps seeing the tourism hospitality sector as being less stable than other sectors, and so jumping from the tourism hospitality sector to you know, the Amazon or supermarket work or education, seeing people jump into all sorts of different things, but also interestingly taking up hobbies, what they thought were hobbies, creative hobbies, and turning them into their own businesses. So our work has been very much about lobbying government to really ask them to listen and understand what the challenges are and how that is impacting in terms of recovery and going back better. We've been asking for an extension to the youth mobility scheme, which would allow, it already allows Commonwealth workers to come across, young Commonwealth workers to come across on visas, and asking for that to be extended to European staff as well. But it's also been about working with the agencies that we have within the county, so the Department for Work and Pensions, Inspire, the schools, the colleges, the LEP, and others, in order to, and transport providers actually, in order to look at, well, what are the opportunities? So we know that we've got pockets of worklessness in different parts of the county, and how do we work with those people to inspire them? Part of it we have to accept has been about, you know, looking at some of the salaries that we offer within the industry, and you will have seen some shifts in those salaries, which I know will be a positive thing for employees. And it's how do we move away from the reputation of tourism and hospitality as being a low-skilled, low-wage economy into actually, this is a brilliant opportunity to work within a fantastic environment, within fantastic communities, and to have careers. So I always think that, you know, in the tourism and hospitality sector, in, you know, arts and culture, there's opportunities to start at a particular level, but actually the training and the support that goes alongside and the career development means that actually very quickly you can rise up that career ladder and move into different areas of the industry as well. It's not something that you have to do forever. So we're doing a lot of work. We had a careers fair recently in Barrow, we're supporting one in Carlisle coming up, and we're looking at lots and lots of work to do, but I have to say that as much as the work we're doing in partnership within the county is positive and important, it's not going to solve the issue. And you know, you listened to the radio this morning, just listening to the issues around the lorry drivers, around farming. You know, it is an issue, a big issue for the country as a whole. The issue in Cumbria is more stark, and it is because we have a small population, a large visitor economy. We hemorrhage young people, and I think that the arts and creative sector has a really strong role that it can play in making this a really attractive place to come and live and work. We've got issues around you know, very expensive housing, so we need more affordable housing. We've got issues around digital connectivity, transport connectivity. So holistically, our role is working with all of those agencies and with government to raise awareness of the issues and to bring forward and support solutions. Sorry, that's very long-winded, but it's a massive issue.
It is, and it's, you know, it's an issue that's causing enormous problems for organisations that may not feel quite so relevant to, you know, individual creatives here, but it is a very big problem for others. So I'm going to stop there myself because I want other people to have the opportunity to talk and ask you questions. Thank you, Gill, for coming to speak to us. I have to go to another meeting, so I'm leaving you in Tom's capable hands, and he's going to take questions from the floor. Thank you very much from me.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, so if anyone wants to ask a question, Harriet and Rob, I can see your hand is raised already. Can I just come back on you, Gill? I think it's £3.1 billion it's worth to the economy of Cumbria, 65,000 jobs, 50% of them are in the Lake District, or 50% of, is it 50% of the jobs are in the Lake District, 50% of the jobs are outside, or is it the value of the business?
It's pretty much both, to be honest with you.
So I'm just surprised that 50% of Cumbria, of tourism in Cumbria is outside the Lake District. That's a real revelation for me this morning. So that's interesting to pick up. Well, I'm going to shut up though, because I can see 4 people lined up. So we're going to go Harriet and Rob, then Stefan, then Amy, and then Julia. So Harriet, Rob, off you go.
Hi, thank you, Gill. That was really interesting, and there was just so much in there that I would like to talk further about. But I guess I have one question, which you talk about Cumbria Tourism's job is to entice and serve visitors, and it's a vital part of the economy. So to what extent is your job also to take part in the way that Cumbria is perceived? You know, what is the identity of Cumbria? And I'm thinking particularly around telling stories about biodiversity, the way we impact nature. You know, we've touched on carbon impact, but allowing visitors when they come in to feel that there's a need for nurturing this space, not just a takeaway offer. And I wonder if that's part of Cumbria Tourism's role.
It is. I think that we are strong partners with the Lake District National Park, and through that the Lake District National Park Partnership. So we have a lot of partners on there from the environmental side and nature side. And one of the ways that we can do that is it's about product development. We were part of a significant bid that had gone into Heritage Lottery Fund, which would, if it wasn't successful, unfortunately, a big part of that was about being able to work with the farming community, with nature communities, in order to provide education experiences for people, if you like. But having said that, there are lots and lots of different experiences that link to habitat, that link to nature, that provide reasons and motivations for people to come and visit. I think that actually you raise a really good point, which is that there's more that we can do in this space, and we should be doing in this space. I will take it back to resource. And one of the things that's happening at the moment is that there's been a review of destination management organisations, of which we're one. And without getting political about it, up until about 10 years ago, there was core funding for destination management organisations. We worked together as a team, if you like, across the country with Visit England, Visit Britain. And that core funding disappeared, and with it, unfortunately, disappeared a lot of big destination management organisations. We survived because we created this membership commercial model. But it does have its limitations for us. So this review that's happening at the moment, I think the government recognised during COVID that we really need these guys to work with businesses, to support businesses, to support recovery. And one of the recommendations in that is that there will again be some core funding. I don't think it'll be huge amounts if it happens at all. But my excitement about that is that it is going to allow us to to deliver more in areas and agendas that I just don't feel comfortable that we're delivering enough in at the moment. And that would be one. Another one would be around accessibility. Another one is around, the whole sustainability agenda. There's more that we need to do, but with a finite resource, we are limited, and we have to focus on the things that we can do well, rather than be too scattergun and do nothing well, if that makes sense. So I think it's a really good and valid point, and an area we can really progress.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harriet. Thanks, Gill. We're just going to have to rattle through these questions. So did I say Stefan next, or did I say Amy? No, Amy, off you go.
Hi there. Yeah, it's just back to probably climate change again, and it's just a question about transport within Cumbria, because we've talked about this in the network before, and to do with sort of arts and culture, it is actually quite valid, really. Does Cumbria Tourism work with other partners and with other councils and things to improve sort of public transport within the county, for visitors and for people that, doing a staycation here? Because I have heard sort of people that I know say, oh, well, I haven't visited Cumbria, the Lake District, because I can't drive, so they sort of think, well, I would need to be able to drive to get around, which I can sort of verify myself, because, I drive, but, I sort of need to really, if I'm kind of coming from Carlisle, it's like a 2-hour drive down to Barrow. If you're taking the train, you're on the West Coast, and it's like over 3 hours. So obviously, you can't do everything, but I just wondered if you did work together with other partners to try and maybe improve public transport, so that people can visit here and then say, oh, there's a play on Theatre by the Lake, we're going to go there tonight, and then we'll come back here. And
yeah, absolutely. So and actually the other point that you made there that's really important that I forgot to mention when I was talking about recruitment is actually we need to improve our transport network to support people to be able to come and work in the places where there are those fantastic opportunities. And it's no good asking people from Barrow to jump on a bus at 7 o'clock in the morning that's going to take them 2 hours to reach Windermere, for example. Yes, in many ways. In fact, just yesterday, we put our response into a consultation around Cumbria's bus transport network, and we're working at the moment in our response to the Cumbria Transport infrastructure programme. So, and I know that other partners, including the National Park, the LEP and others, are all putting into that. And obviously our perspective is coming from both the visitor, but also, as we've just touched on, the employee, the potential employee as well. We have strategic partners, and Northern and Stagecoach are both strategic partners with Cumbria Tourism. So that means that we're able to work with them quite closely so that they understand what need is and demand is. But also so that we can create marketing collateral and itineraries to encourage people to do different, use public transport whilst they're here to discover an area and then perhaps move on another day to the next area. But it's a massive issue, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly for young people. When we had young creatives take over this call earlier this year. Lack of public transport, particularly in the evenings, was certainly a barrier for young people in particular in this county, and dissuaded them from staying here. and pursuing careers in the arts and culture sector. So that was a really interesting observation from
and
them.
I completely recognise that. My own son is 18. He's slow learning to drive because of the backlog with COVID. You know, and we're out tomorrow evening, and there isn't a bus after 5 o'clock for him to go to visit his friends and go out and do what he wants to do. So it is a huge barrier.
Yeah. Okay, so good to hear that you're talking to those transport companies, and we might make progress. Thank you for your question, Amy. Julia, off you go.
Yeah, it was in relation really to what you were saying about some of the barriers to people working here. And it seems to me that there's a huge tension between the number of holiday homes and the fact that there isn't accommodation for workers in tourism. So I live in a honeypot area of the Lake District. There just isn't any accommodation. 80% of the houses are second homes. And at what point do you say that's too many? To give an example, my husband, who works in a tourism business, has recently recruited somebody from the south of England to work in his team. She's absolutely fantastic, but she's living in a camper van, which she's managed to borrow from somebody. Her mum has come with her because she also wanted to relocate. Mum's working in a tourism business as well, and they've got no prospect of finding anywhere to rent. Every rental property that comes available, they stop taking viewings after 10 o'clock in the morning. You know, it can come on at 9, and they can't even get to see anything, let alone rent anything. You know, and his concern is that she will just give up and leave because there's a limit to how long you want to live in a camper van over the winter, you know, with your parents. And that's just, you know, I could repeat lots of examples of situations I know in the area I live in where people just can't find anywhere to live. And yet, you know, the houses are all holiday homes. So at what point does the sector just go, we've got too many holiday homes, we need accommodation for local people?
Yeah, there's a balance to be struck there, isn't there? I think, and I recognise exactly what you're saying, because you know many of the businesses have got the same issue. I think there's a difference between second homes and holiday homes. I think holiday homes do, you know, they're filled, and there are people that are coming here and are spending within the communities, and I think a lot of the facilities, etc., that we've got are because there are holiday homes. We've seen a huge.
But I agree that that's true, and I live in a row of houses where every house is a holiday home apart from ours. But the reality is that whether those are holiday homes or the second homes, there isn't anywhere for people to live. It doesn't make any difference to helping local people find accommodation.
And I agree. I do agree. I think that there's a big look at the moment, particularly around second homes, because we have seen a huge increase. I think the stamp duty relaxation didn't help in that matter, and what we've been seeing is homes that have been used as staff accommodation. Staff have been getting chucked out of those so that they can be sold as second homes. So there's a massive agenda there. You're absolutely right. And the other one as well is that we're not creating enough affordable accommodation either. So I don't know if Kerry's still on the call from the National Park, but Kerry will be able to back me up really, that as part of the National Park plan, one of the big calls that we've put into that is for more availability of affordable housing, and also going back to that transport question as well, point as well, you know, how do we, there is affordable housing in parts of the county, and long may that continue, but how do we better connect people from those places to the opportunities that there are for pleasure, for leisure, as well as for work?
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Julia, and really interesting case study from your own perspective. Thank you for that. Last question, Derek.
Very simple question, Gill. Have you considered what might be a saturation point for visitors?
Have we considered what might be a saturation point? I think what we're not particularly interested in is the volume of visitors. It's about the value of visitors. So you won't find in our strategy that we want more people. What we want is to see an increase in the value of tourism to the county as a whole all year round, because there are areas of the county who come to me and say, you know, everybody's in Central Lake District. Why can't you get more people out to the West Coast? Why can't you get people more into Carlisle? Why can't you get more people along Morecambe Bay? And that's what our policy is about. It's about encouraging people to visit the county as a whole. It's about encouraging them to come in what we would call the shoulder months. So you don't have to all cut. We'll always be very busy in the summer months, of course we will. But how do we create some balance so that we don't go from kind of 0 to 100 and back to 0 again? And I think they're the opportunities for us. It's about and I think if we can get people to come and stay longer, then you will see a relaxation. I think at the moment, I'm right in saying, and please don't quote me because I haven't revisited this statistic most recently, but I think only about 15% of our visitors are overnight stayers. The majority are day visitors, and it's how do we turn that into into something that creates greater value all year round and county-wide.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Thank you, Gill, for that. I think it's a really important relationship between the arts and culture sector and the tourism hospitality sector. There's some really interesting comments in chat. I've
not had a chance to look at that.
Have a look once we've finished, Gill. Gill Clough saying the issue of affordability isn't new, and telling a story of when she joined as a teacher. Caroline saying lobby your MPs. She was on a call to Tim Farron last night, and he's proposing things to the government he needs support. Yeah. And also a line from Henry Goodwin as well from Sustainable Carlisle, talking about the footprint and what the plan for reducing the number of tourists in the area, increase the time they stay, as you've just been mentioning, Gill, what that plan could look like. So do take a chance to look at those chat comments, Gill, in a second or two. And Fliss is asking, more electric bikes, facilities for that, etc., etc. Yeah. So this is a conversation that is not going to go away. Thank you for your time this morning, Gill. And I think let's keep talking about the work that you're doing and the work that we're all doing as well, and make sure that that we do what we can to keep this fine county of ours on the road in the right way. So thank you very much, Gill.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I am going to read through all of this.
Yeah, do.
So thank you. And there's a couple of links I'll pop in as well, if that's okay.
Smashing. And there's more great stuff to come in the next 19 minutes. Right, let's go to North Cumbria and Susie Tate. Susie, who is a dancer and a dance teacher, but does many other things as well, and is involved with healing arts as well. So Susie, while I get your 4 slides up, would you like to introduce yourself, and off you go.
Right, I'm hoping our internet will will stay up as usual, the joys and the challenges. Yes, I'm 2.5 days a week freelance, working in dance and health, and then the other 2.5 days a week I am arts manager for Healing Arts, which is North Cumbria Hospital's arts programme. So just as a little bit of background, I know some of you already know about it, but just to fill people in who are not so familiar with Healing Arts. It's run probably for about 6 years in a very ad hoc, hand-to-mouth way. I started working with them about 4 or 5 years ago, freelance capacity, and basically just sort of dug my elbows in and said, you need to get arts going in this hospital properly. Met the chair of Healing Arts, and sort of things rolled on forward from there, and I was taken on a freelance basis to develop some projects. And then COVID happened, along with, they weren't paying me. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Like so much with COVID, some things have appeared, and one of them is, sadly in many ways, that arts and health has suddenly risen up on the agenda for a lot of hospital trusts. They're realising that actually we need things like this, a lot for the staff in particular. So I was taken on last December with a proper contract, a piece of paper that I signed, which is very exciting, although they haven't told me that it's been renewed, and nobody seems to know, but we'll worry about that another time. Anyway, what we're doing is over November and into December, Healing Arts are going to be hosting 2 courses in association with Willis Newson, and Willis Newson is leading arts and health organisation. The director, Jane, she's extraordinary, the most gentle person, and the most she's just got complete fire behind her, and she's worked in the field for well over 20 years. across about 32 different trusts in the country, helping to develop programs of work within different hospitals. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the two courses, the first one is the question of quality. And I think we all know what quality is, but in the healthcare world, how we get that across to healthcare. I know that all of you would have come across these sort of, well, the volunteers can do it, or staff can do this, give us a training session, we can do it, and not understanding that actually so much of the quality is the subtlety behind what we do, and is in the steeped experience of maybe 20 years plus, even 10, even 5 years of having given pretty much your whole life over to what you do as an artist. That's where the quality actually really starts from, and that's what makes a very quality experience for the people that you're working with. So her first one to say is the question of quality, but a spiel there, and when the dates are. If I just, so I'm just going to swing through my, so that's divided into the 3 workshops. You've got developing quality framework for arts and health. The second workshop is developing a quality practice. And the workshop, third workshop is quality in the real world. What she does in the, I think it's in the second workshop, we look at a code of practice that's used in healthcare, and then how can we work that within our artistic world. So trying to use things that is going to be understood by healthcare. Certainly since I've been working the trust this year, where everything is really tightened up, obviously, with all the COVID restrictions and things. But generally everything's tightened up, and I have to fill in a plethora of interesting forms. But and I've had to sort of in my own way learn that what's going to make sense to that healthcare practitioner at the end, to the matron, to the ward manager, what's going to make sense to them to go, right, I get this, I can see the quality of it, I can understand what's going on. Yeah, let's give this a go. So that's your first one, question of quality. Next slide, please. And then the second set of workshops is creative and credible. So that's about around evaluation. As we all know, evaluation is really important, but again, it can get a bit tiring and boring. So it's about creative evaluation, but again, looking at how we can still make that speak to healthcare environment. So the healthcare environment, they use things like sort of more research evaluation, so you might use logic models and all sorts. Which are all a bit sort of heady, and we don't need to go down that track, but we can use those as if you like, a template and explore more creatively. But again, make sure that speaks to your healthcare practitioners in a way that they understand. So that's the second set of dates. With both of these courses, they're separate, so it's not that you have to attend all 6. I'm really aware of people's very, very busy schedules. So if you can say, well, I can only do 2 of those 3, they will be recorded. You'll be able to get the recording of them. Obviously, being able to attend in person is better, because there is a lot of sort of interaction as well between participants. And keeping the numbers small so we can have that interaction. So next slide, please. It comes up to the fees. So we unfortunately are having to charge, but it will be worth your weight in gold. I've done some Jane's courses before, and really it will be very, very positive for you and your work going forward. So, and there's the information at the bottom. So if you want some more information, please drop me a line, send me an email, and I would love to have you on the courses. So yeah, get there soon.
Thanks very much, Susie. That's lovely. Good luck with that. And I think Amy's put in your email address into the chat.
Perfect.
As well.
Thank you.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Smashing. Right. Okay. Gosh, lots going on. Let's cross now to Kendal, or just outside Kendal, and let's reflect on Artful Ways with Harriet and Rob, who've done such a fantastic job to pull that project together over the summer. It took a lot of work, and if you haven't been to the exhibition in Tully House, I commend it to you. It's a beautiful thing, and full of variety of work from lots of people in the network and beyond. And I'm going to let Harriet and Rob tell a better story than I can about how it went and where it's at, and perhaps what the future holds as well. So Harriet and Rob, I've got your slides. Over to you.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I might as well bring the slides up. Thank you very much. A lot of you on this call will have been following the journey of Artful Ways from the beginning. For people who don't know, it was a project that was set up to help people meet their creative neighbours or use walking and getting outside as a way to inspire creativity and get to know cultural spaces around them. And the definition of culture was taken to be very broad, which was a wonderful reflection of what our county actually offers. So anything from a museum to a fell top to a farmyard to a poetry group. So we invited people to take walks and to join in, to meet others and to map their routes. Next slide, please, Tom.
The website is a real good repository of everything that's gone on, everything we've managed to bring together, and other people, of course, have brought together over the very short period of time, the very short life of the project. So we're, I think, quite proud of how it all came together relatively quickly at speed. Next slide. As a techie, this is one of the ones that I'm really appreciative of, the fact that people embraced technology, using their Android phones and their Apple phones to track routes, which could then be uploaded for live on this interactive map. As you can see, it's spread right across the county of Cumbria, showing squiggles where walks were, and then icons showing what people did. So people can check on that map and see what other people across the county got up to in a creative way. Next slide, Tom. And that's it in its granular detail. So you can zoom in. The map is really cool. So you can actually see all the contour lines, pretty much track these routes if you want to. You can actually see where people have been to relive those experiences.
And what you can't see on this slide is if you click any of those icons, it brings up people's written reflections on their walk and reflections on 3 project questions, which asked about creativity, connectivity, and the way we interact with our places. And the colour codes show whether they were individual walks or group walks or walks by the artists who took part. Some of the groups were, I think, as big as 20, and some people did them alone. Next slide, please. The creativity that emerged from this project was so exciting, and a lot of people made work off the back of their walks. The gallery on the website shares these in detail, so please do go and have a look, get a cup of tea, spend some time. You'll see images, films, audio, just have some fun, spend some time there. And the submissions were not just from people who might call themselves artists. One of the beauties of this project was a lot of people got involved and had a go, even though that wasn't their life. Next slide, please. But of course, we had commissioned artists, Alex Jacob Whitworth, Anne Waggot-Knott, Lorna Singleton, Rachel Capavilla and Rosie Galloway-Smith. Please go to the website, find out about their work. Such a wonderful variety. All the work, next slide, please. There was a selection process that allowed most of the work that features on the gallery to be in the physical space of Tully House. And these images just give an idea of it. It shares the space with the New Light Art Prize exhibition. It's just fantastic. It's so varied. There's film, audio, sculpture, pictures. Yeah, go and have a look. We also encourage people to write a caption, so you do get a sense of the story behind the artworks, which is really important to us. Next slide, please.
Yeah, just some facts to ponder on, as is written on the slide here. There were 88 tracks submitted in the month, 55 creative pieces submitted to the online gallery, nearly 15,000 website views from nearly 5,000 different visitors. And just some stats there about where people came from. So it's interesting about when you put out sort of hashtags, how useful they are, because you can track back as an artist using hashtags. Sometimes the surprising facts about where things have come from in this spidery world of interweb. So
yeah, but it's
really
useful
cool
to have those platforms. That's what we've learned from looking at the stats, how great it is to have the networks that we have and for people to be talking to one another. We put in 204 days from the Arts Council submission. Of course, the pain began before we submitted the form, but 204 days from the submission to the opening of the exhibition. So we've been with our fantastic team of partners, running at full speed ever since then. But the amount of kind of payback has been fantastic in new networks, conversations, and lots of fun. Next slide, please. So here's the details. Please go and see the exhibition if you can. It's on until November the 6th in Tully House. Next year, it's touring. It's going to Studio Moreland and Florence Arts Centre. And that will give it entirely new flavour. So even if you've already seen it, make time in your diaries to come again. And we'll put the exact dates out near the time when we've sorted them. There's a film of the exhibition that will be posted soon as well. Next slide, please, Tom, and we should be on time. We're doing the talking now, but it's not just us. We have been so well supported throughout. Thank you, everybody. And Cumbria Arts and Culture Network, you know, that was the birthplace of the project. It's its growth place. And then all the other teams have helped this be Cumbria-wide. And that's been extremely significant for us.
Yeah, no, I think it's just a really good team game, really, bringing all this together with a lot of help and support from other people. And it just shows, I think, if you have ambition to do something which is very embracive, very inclusive, then it can do a good job. But of course, it needs a lot of hard work from a lot of people behind the scenes, as with all these things. So thank you very much to you guys here. Really.
And Gill's just put in the chat, they've just passed 1,500 visitors to Tully House. Hooray! Yeah, get in there. We keep getting little messages from people saying, I went today, my mum went today, and everyone's loving it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Harriet. Thank you, Rob, for all the work you've put into it. I've been to see it a couple of times now, and it's a great thing. So I encourage everyone to enjoy it. And also, just look at the website. There's tons of stuff on the website. And as you said, the blogs that people have written about their walks, very reflective, very thoughtful, sometimes quite surprising, and really worth a look at as well. Right, I want to share a tiny film about architecture before we finish, about the wonderful Windermere Jetty Museum, which was a very close runner-up to the Sterling Prize, which was announced last night. I don't know if you know about Sterling Prize. It's a national architecture prize, and there's a beautiful 4-minute film that I want to share with you as a leaving present from this meeting. But before I do that, I'm just going to hand over to Stefan, who of course is our vice chair, just to reflect and to close some thoughts. So Stefan, over to you.
Well, specifically about the writing workshops that were offered, which quick feedback sandwich. I think, first of all, they were excellent. They were really well run. He obviously knew his stuff. It was jam-packed. And I think I'm not saying that just because I experienced it, but everyone in my group and from the feedback on the Facebook thread, they were really useful. Apart from the skills that he imparted, he just gave us things that save time. It was really valuable in terms of training. Middle bit of feedback sandwich. Interesting learning because 50 odd places were offered. 20 odd people didn't turn up. Ouch. So that needs addressing. It's a great shame. It's interesting to hear about various courses being charged. Susie's course, hearing Gill talk about the membership costs of Cumbria Tourism, you know, it raises a question about whether we have to resort to charging for these courses. But it is a question that the steering group's having to think about. And finally, on the feedback, it's another example of a really broad appeal offer to members of the network. And although in a recent survey, everyone was asked for ideas, that's an ongoing question. So if you have an expertise or people you know that can offer an expertise for similar workshops, I mean, the carbon literacy one has been mentioned, but if you know people that you think have a valuable offer for the network, please let us know. Finally, just to say, thanks, Tom, for calling in a favour from someone he knew.
Thank you, Stefan. He's a good man, Chris Fanshake. And the good news is, Julia says, Julia Wilson, the writing workshop was great. My emails are already less waffly, smiley face. So if you get any emails from Julia, enjoy their less waffliness. And I think I certainly did one of the workshops as well, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that people who went did enjoy it. Right, if you've got to go, then do please go. It's 10:27 or 10:28, but I'm going to leave you with a beautiful 4-minute film about the gorgeousness, and it's a lovely slow film about the gorgeousness of Windermere Jetty, which, just to say again, was a runner-up in the Sterling Architecture Prize that was announced last night. So I'm just going to share my screen, sit back and enjoy this.
We're on Windermere at the moment, and Windermere has a very kind of special history. It's famed for its romantic or picturesque landscapes, but it's also got a kind of history of kind of working culture as well. So where we are at the moment in the museum used to be the site of a minerals extraction plant. So the lake used to be a kind of site of industry. And so I guess what interested us about this site when we first came here was this evolution of the man-made, of the natural, of the picturesque and the sublime context, but also of weighing these industrial and picturesque heritages in equal balance. We have a very particular climate here. The original steamboat museum had been almost reclaimed by the weather and the lake, and it was in a state of such disrepair that that building could no longer take care of those boats. So our original brief was to better conserve the collection for generations to come. We couldn't use stainless steel as in our original competition concept, because after working for 2 or 3 years on this design development, we realized that nothing in this landscape can ever be stainless. So we begin with this natural copper with a black oxidization finish on it. It very, very quickly starts to register the passage of time. The building is changing colour from the windward side to the leeward side. And it's showing how it is starting to embed itself in this place, in its environment, and becoming kind of fused with this sense of place. I think when you first walk down to the lake shore, you get this real perspective on this sublime dimension. The Lake District landscape, but also the sort of the fact that you're almost at the mercy of the elements of weather at the same time. You can get this quite volatile change in weather. Over the course of a day, you can see almost all types of weather. The notion that we could provide architecture with a very particular type of shelter in mind, that we could make environments that took care of boats and took care of people on the inside, but also encouraged that experience of the Lake District landscape and even weather on the outside, was a really important generative motive force of the concept of the form of these buildings. We have quite simple square form plan buildings, but they're undercut with these very pronounced eaves. The very pronounced eaves give very useful shelter, but in their kind of dark form, what they do is they frame views beyond the buildings themselves to the lighter horizons beyond them. So the buildings are a frame for other experiences other than themselves.